Hello, everyone. I hope and pray that you're doing well. You may remember a few weeks ago in church, we looked at the paradox of spiritual growth and how to become mature, we have to become like little children. And so here I am in the nursery. You might recognize this space. If you haven't been in the nursery in a while, come check it out. There's lots of great toys in here. It's right beside my office. Sometimes I move over here if things aren't going so well in the sermon and just get distracted. But, you know, just a little follow-up from that paradox. Children, they can make us smile. And their antics, right? Their joie de vivre, their enthusiasm, they just kind of bring out smiles in us, just even by their silliness. And I love watching adults with babies. Adults making faces at babies, trying to get babies to smile. I won't, reproduce any of those faces, but I might be accused of being an adult who behaves this way around little children. Or I love watching how teenagers get more playful in the presence of little children, especially if nobody's watching. It's like children help us rediscover our childlikeness, right? I had a child tell me a joke recently, and they said, hey, why can't you hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom? Because the P is silent. Now, maybe that's not that funny if an adult tells it to you, but when a 7-year-old tells that joke, I find it absolutely hilarious. Now, even more significantly than that is the fact that children are dependent. And maybe they help remind us that we are dependent. It sounds maybe a little bit silly, but I think it's true that adults often pretend like we're self-sufficient. But a child doesn't seem to be afraid to say, I want my mom. I need my dad. Imagine if we adults admitted that need a little bit more. And further, there's something about childlike faith. Brian Dirksen has this song called Creation Calls. We sing it over in Big Church sometimes. Bill Henderson has created this wonderful slide presentation that goes along with it. And here's the chorus of Creation Calls. How could I say there is no God when all around creation calls? A singing bird, a mighty tree, the vast expanse of oceans, of open sea. And then he goes on to sing, I believe, I believe, I believe. And then he whispers, just like a child. Right? And this faith like a child. Let me close by quoting Frederick Buechner. Not a surprise. It's not the first time I've quoted him, but this is what he writes. When the disciples, over earnest as ever, asked Jesus who was the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, Jesus pulled a child out of the crowd and said the greatest in the kingdom of heaven were people like this. 2,000 years of homiletic sentimentalizing to the contrary notwithstanding, Jesus was not being sentimental. He was saying that the people who get into heaven are people who, like children, don't worry about it too much. They are people who, like children, live with their hands open more than with their fists clenched. They are people who, like children, are so relatively unburdened by preconceptions that if somebody says there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, they're perfectly willing to go take a look for themselves. Children aren't necessarily better than other people. Like the child in The Emperor's New Clothes, they are just apt to be better at telling the difference between a phony and the real thing. To become mature, we must become like children. And as God's dearly loved children, may you rediscover your inner child. The peace of Christ be with you all.